Hi everyone, my name is Lydia and this is what I wish they taught me about econometrics and introduction. In the previous videos, we've learned how to interpret coefficients in 4 different models, the level, level log, and the log models. This is a summary table of all of those interpretations. This table is pretty much in line with notation in the Wooldridge book. For instance, if we compare what we have learned in the previous videos with this like summary notation in here. If we look at the level model in here, where we've got both the y and the x in units, the way we interpret it changes in the y, where beta 1 times any changes in the x. The question is, so far we have seen all of these interpretations in the setup of a simple regression. What changes when we have to move to a multiple regression? And the answer to that is that in terms of interpretation and the logic behind it, nothing changes. The only thing that changes is that to that long sentence that has that interpretations, we're going to have to add in the end a very important word. And some of you might be instructed to simply write ceteris paribus, or you can also write holding everything else constant. Okay? What does that mean? Let's see that in an actual setup of a multiple regression. Let's imagine that we have ln of y being equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 ln of x1, and let's say that we have also beta 2 x2 plus an error term. If we look at the beta 1 in here, that beta 1 is still an elasticity, okay? It's just that in the interpretation is going to be a partial elasticity. The reason for that is because now we have that x2, which we have to take into consideration. So how does the definition change in that case? How do we write the full sentence? So we can say that if like a 1% change in x1 is on average associated with a whatever the sign of your beta 1 will be in the end, but let's say with a beta 1 hat percentage change in y, then I'm gonna change color here because this is what we are adding, that holding everything else constant. So holding everything else constant, or in this case, since this is not a very long multiple regression, I could have just written holding x2 constant. Okay, so whichever of the two you choose, it's okay. But this is very important, and this is like the main change that we see when we move in terms of interpretation from single regression to multiple regression. So as you can see, the relation in y and x1 in here, it's still that log model. So I still kept my interpretation in terms of elasticities. The math, the same, the logic just becomes conditional. So if your next follow-up question is then instead, but wait a second, x2 is actually not in log, so how does that really work? Well, in that case, we're going to look at the interpretation of y and x2 separately. And y and x2, it's not a log model that we're saying. Instead, is that log level model. Okay, so for the beta 1 in here, we were looking at the log, so log. That's why we did the percentage interpretation. Now with x2 instead, we've got the log level model. And in the log level model, we will have to multiply the beta by 100. So if we are looking at the interpretation now of beta 2, so this was beta 1. Now, if we move to beta 2, we're going to say a 1 unit, because x2 is in units, okay? A 1 unit change, increase, or like whatever you want to do in x2 is on average associated with a 100 times beta 2, okay, percentage change in y. And the last bit that we have to add, because we are in a multiple regression, now is holding x1 constant. Okay, so look carefully. For the first one, I had the log model, so I kept that interpretation. For ln x2, I have the log level model, so I'm going to keep exactly that interpretation. However, that interpretation now becomes conditional on holding the other variable constant. Okay? So in simple regression, the interpretation is unconditional. In multiple regression, it is always a partial effect. Okay? Now, multiple regressions, what they do is that they turn interpretations into controlled comparisons. So it means that what we are asking in here is, if two observations have the same x2 but differ only in x1, how does your y differ? Right? That's the purest and most simple kind of economic meaning that you can attach to it. In a multiple regression, the functional form interpretation stays the same. It's just every coefficient is a partial effect. I hope this video was helpful to clarify some of the questions that you might have had moving on into multiple regressions. And stay tuned, as I will see you in the next video.